Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we are back today with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Hammond Collection release. We have something that I was really excited about. We've got the Dimetrodon, and this is one that I have been just honestly anxiously awaiting the release of because it is a very cool species, one that I am a huge fan of, and also just one that I was really happy to see get the Hammond Collection treatment. It's amazing if you think back a few years ago, we only had like one Dimetrodon from Mattel, and now we've got so many different versions, and now of course a Hammond Collection version. As far as the box art and everything goes, you can see we've got a nice window area here where we can see the figure. We've got a shot down here of the figure on the front of the box, and of course the species name, and then up there on the top the Hammond Collection. And if we actually turn it to the side, the Hammond Collection over there, and then another really cool shot of the Dimetrodon on this side with the Jurassic World Dominion logo, because that is, of course, where we saw the Dimetrodon in the franchise for the first time. And then here on the back, you can see, if we kind of lean the camera back a little bit, some images of the Dimetrodon figure itself, as well as down here, the other figures that are out currently from the Hammond Collection, all of which I think are now making their way to shelves, except for Velociraptor Blue. I haven't heard of Blue hitting the shelves anywhere quite yet, but I know Owen Grady is with the Dimetrodon, and then of course the Carnotaurus has actually been out for a little bit. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So here is our Dimetrodon, and let's go ahead and reposition the camera here quickly, get a better view of the figure. Now bring it closer to us, but you can see that it is a really cool looking figure. It really is definitely the nicest painted for sure of any of the Dimetrodon that we've had from Mattel so far. Sculpt-wise, it also does look quite nice. I think it pretty nicely replicates the Jurassic World Dominion version for the most part. I think the head sculpt is pretty darn close, maybe not absolutely picture perfect, but very close. Outside of that, moving through the body, I feel like the rest of the body definitely resembles the Dimetrodon quite nicely, including the paintwork, which is actually really nicely done. So, as always, let's jump to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Dimetrodon, you can see it looks pretty good, but the one thing that I will say straight out of the gate that I'm not a massive fan of is the teeth. I just feel like the teeth look basically like what I would expect on the main line. And when we recently had some Mattel figures sporting new teeth and way better looking teeth, it is a little bit of a bummer to see the teeth not looking that great. They're not bad by any means. I just feel like they're hard to kind of differentiate from each other. They're all kind of jumbled together and not quite as obvious as I might have liked to have seen, and again, not quite as high quality as I would expect for the Hammond Collection, but they're still, again, not bad. I feel like the teeth might be the only real downside maybe that we'll see for this figure moving through so far anyway. I mean, of course, we are just beginning. Actually, yeah, so it looks like the jaw only closes to about that point. It doesn't open all that wide either. That's about as far open as I can get. Oh, no, now we gotta go really far. It looks like we basically broke it, but it doesn't operate that smoothly. You can see it doesn't close any further than that. And when it comes to a length of opening it, I feel like that's probably the best point that we can get it, because once we move it past that, the kind of skin on the side here sort of disconnects and doesn't look that great. You can see we do have a tongue on the inside of the mouth. We have a nice pinkish tone for the entire inside of the mouth. You can see some okay detail up there on the inside of the mouth. Nothing too crazy, but it looks all right on the inside. The teeth on the lower jaw, actually, I think, look better than the teeth do on the upper jaw. I definitely like those. Whereas the teeth on the upper jaw, again, they don't look terrible, but they're just a little jumbled together. You can see we've got the nostrils sculpted out here on the tip of the snout. We also have, as you can see, pretty nice looking eyes, kind of looking like we have the glass eyes in there, but it's a little hard to truly tell, but it definitely looks like we do. We have some pretty decent looking scale detail here for the face. You've got some darker variations, like a really dark green for the head, and then a lighter tone here for the lower jaw. You do see that lighter tone run down through the underside of the Dimetrodon as well. As you lead back here into the neck, you pick up some osteoderms, because you do see that on the Dimetrodon in Jurassic World Dominion. You can also see that we begin to pick up the sail, but because of the articulation of the figure, the sail is slightly disconnected here to start out with. but it also looks like we actually have, again, the dark green, but maybe we even have like a little bit of a darker tone that's been very nicely airbrushed over the top, potentially. Just kind of looks like there is some slight alternate color, but maybe that's just my eyes playing tricks on me. Again, we do have the neck articulation, which that's about as far up as it goes. That's about as far down as it goes. Wow, this neck is super stiff. Okay, let's try to get it loosened up a little bit here. There we go. We're getting it moving a little bit. That was just not going anywhere. Okay, so that's about as high up as we can get, obviously, because the sail is going to stop it. You can get it to go down about that far, which isn't terrible. You can swivel it pretty nicely, but you don't have any sort of ability to go left and right when it comes to the neck. And I don't know that there was a way for them to do that. Would have been cool, but no left or right articulation for the neck. As you do move up into the sail of the Dimetrodon, you can see that we've got some pretty cool designing going through. We have a darker variation of a red that starts out in the sail, but as you lead out toward the tips and the end of the sail, the highest point, you can see it does transition quite smoothly to a lighter reddish tone, and you can see that we have these dark tones that sort of stripe through the course of the sail, all very much so looking like the Jurassic World Dominion version. The skin texture in the sail does also look quite nice. Moving down here into the body, you do see a darker tone pick up very nicely running along the back of the Dimetrodon. You can see it picks up right around here. It's a pretty smooth transition, very much so airbrushed on. You can see the skin texture as well through the course of the body does look nice. And again, we have all those osteoderms all over the place on the Dimetrodon. As you move down here into the front leg, you can see we've got quite a few joints of articulation as well as some pretty darn nice looking scale detail moving down into that leg. We also have some variation of color. As you move down into the feet, we transition to a brownish tone for the feet, and we do have nails painted the entire way through on both the front and rear legs. You can see they are painted with a dark tone, also sport a nice gloss coat to make them shine, which is really quite cool. And when it comes to the articulation of these legs here, you can go forward and back pretty nicely. You can actually go probably the entire way around if you really wanted to try. Yeah, absolutely. So you can go, again, forward and back nicely. Now it's very loose because I did that, but you can go out away from the body, about that high, then back down. It is super, super loose now. And then we can move the elbow forward and potentially back. Yeah, you can basically stretch it out. I wonder if we could swivel. Yes, you can absolutely swivel. And that's really about it when it comes to the front leg here. I was kind of hoping maybe we'd have wrist articulation, but it doesn't look like we do. As you move back into the stomach, you can kind of make out the rib cage sort of right there. Again, you can see how smooth the transition is from the darker tone down to that lighter green. Well, it's actually dark green, but it's a lighter tone than what we see up here. As you move back here into the rear leg, you do have some nice muscle definition in the thigh. Again, a few more osteoderms picking up. You've got more articulation, of course, as you move down through the course of the leg here in the hip, which is forward and back just as nicely, I would say, as the front leg. It can kind of move away from the body, but not really a whole lot. And then, of course, we have the knee articulation, forward and back. Very nice, actually, if you go forward. And you can swivel the knee as well. And then you do have ankle articulation right here, which isn't the smoothest thing in the world, but you can get a little bit of mobility. And then, of course, swivel it so you can kind of turn the feet and stuff if you choose to. So some more nice articulation there. Again, we transition to a brown down there on the foot. And we even have the brown on the undersides of the feet just to give it a little bit more variation of color. You can see the lighter tone of the underbelly, though, does end as we reach the tail. And as you lead out into the tail, you do see that that darker tone running along the top does follow through the course of the entire tail, with the darker green also meshing in there very nicely. You can see we have the osteoderms running the entire way out. And we do have a wire tail for the Dimetrodon, just adding in even more posability for our figure. Of course, we're really not going to see... Oh, also you have this joint here, which is just pretty much your standard. You can swivel it, go up, down, left, right, quite a bit as far as posability goes in the tail. But you're really not going to see a whole lot of difference on this side, any more so than what we had seen on the first side, of course, because it is a fully posable figure, so it's really up to you to pose it the way you like it, but it definitely looks quite nice over here as well. As far as a size goes for our Dimetrodon, lengthwise you were looking at about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters, and height-wise, I would say just a hair under 3.5 inches, or about 9 centimeters, approaching it, but not quite there. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human being next to our Hammond collection Dimetrodon, and you can see it does have a pretty decent size, though there is a good chance it might be the smallest Dimetrodon or close to the smallest that we've had so far. So for another comparison, there is a standard Mattel Dimetrodon here next to the Hammond collection version, which you can see the standard sized version is definitely a little bit bigger. Not a whole lot of difference in size, but it is definitely a little bit bigger than the Hammond collection version. We've also got the original version of the Dimetrodon from Mattel, which you can see some aspects of that one are a little bit smaller, I would say, kind of, potentially, or similarly sized at the very least to the Hammond collection version, but other things are definitely, like the head sculpt is definitely significantly larger. I feel like it might be a little bit shorter, though, than the Hammond collection version. We've also got a Kenner Dimetrodon in here for a comparison next to the Hammond collection version. Obviously, the Kenner version is a bit larger. And then for a Hammond collection comparison, we have the Gallimimus next to the Dimetrodon, showing you that the Dimetrodon is obviously quite a bit smaller. We've also got a Hammond collection Velociraptor here next to the Dimetrodon, which you can see the Dimetrodon looks like maybe it has a chance of taking that raptor down, but who really knows, I guess. As well as the Dilophosaurus, and I think we'll probably end it here with the comparisons, because at this point you should probably have a pretty good idea of the size of this Dimetrodon and the fact that it is definitely a bit on the smaller side. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Hammond collection articulated Dimetrodon is pretty darn nice. I won't say it's absolutely drop dead gorgeous or amazing, but it is definitely nicely done. I think the sculpt is overall really well done, definitely replicates the Jurassic World Dominion version pretty darn nicely. The head sculpt for some reason seems a little off to me, but it's not bad or anything like that. So as a whole, I think sculpt wise it looks good. Very crisp detail, lots of it, and again, replicates the creature from the films that it's supposed to replicate pretty nicely. The paint job, however, is actually really nicely done. I'm definitely a fan of what Mattel has done with the paint here on the figure. The only area I would say I'm not a huge fan of paint-wise would be the teeth, because the teeth are just a little jumbled when it comes to the paint. I feel like they could have looked a little bit better if they had just taken a little more care when it comes to the paintwork of the teeth. But once you move past that point, I think the paintwork looks great. They've done a great job of applying different various tones of color, really smooth transitions, nice natural application of the paint. Nothing on it looks like paint. It all looks like body color. The addition of coloration down there on the feet that differs from the body was also a nice touch. The nails look great with, again, that fully painted look, which is fantastic. And the glass eyes, I think, which are, something that often look pretty bad, do look pretty good on this figure. It may be because the eyes are so small, it's hard to really see them, but from what I can tell, they definitely look nice. And the articulation is pretty smooth, though it's not absolutely incredible. Like, for instance, the neck doesn't have a whole lot of posability, but what it does have moves pretty okay, I guess. The legs move nicely, and then again you have the wire tail, which is always fun on any figure. So as a whole, this is definitely a very cool figure, and one that I absolutely recommend picking up. So if you are interested in grabbing this, you should head to your local Target, because that is exactly where I found mine, and grab it from there, because it is just now beginning to show up on shelves again at Target. So make sure you pick this up, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.